We're talking Desmond Ridder replacements on today's show, but help us reach 17,000 subscribers. We are less than 300 subs away. It's the next milestone as we march to 20K. So if you have not joined the channel yet, please go ahead and do so. Let's talk about everyone's favorite topic right now in Atlanta, Desmond Ridder replacements. Maybe right after Arthur Smith replacements. But we're going to talk about 5 quarterbacks that the Falcons could get realistically. And that kind of leads me to my first point here. There are dream guys, and then there are realistic guys. I don't think that Kirk Cousins is going to be going anywhere but Minnesota this offseason. I fully expect him to be re-signed with the Vikings, and I don't think the Cardinals are going to move on from Kyler Murray. So I just removed them from contention as guys that are probably not going to be available for a trade or in free agency. But now let's get into my available and realistic Ridder replacements, starting with number 5 as we count down to number 1, Baker Mayfield. Now, this one's not too sexy, but Baker has had, at least on paper, a pretty solid year. I mean, you look at his 2 previous seasons between the Panthers and the Rams, and the Browns as well, and then you look at what he's done this year in Tampa Bay. Completion percentage up, yards per game up, touchdowns. I mean, touchdowns per game is way up. He's 3 fewer despite playing way fewer games. Interceptions way down, and the record has been stabilized. I don't think Baker is all that likely to Atlanta, but I could see this potential path unfolding where what if the Falcons win their next 2 to 3 games, right? And let's say that kind of moves them out of the top echelon for drafting a quarterback in round 1, and they don't want to trade up to get a guy. And let's say the Buccaneers kind of fall apart the last 3 games here, so they don't want to bring Baker back. And ultimately, Atlanta goes, well, we can't get a quarterback we like in the first round of the draft, so why don't we do what Tampa Bay did last year and sign Baker to a 1-year contract because they ended up falling out of favor, and then they got to draft a QB. So the 2 teams kind of swap places as to where they currently are and where they're headed, and Atlanta ultimately ends up with Baker. I don't think that's very realistic, but I do think it is a greater than 0 possibility. My 4th option for Desmond Ridder replacements would be Bo Nix, quarterback out of Oregon. So let's talk about Bo Nix for a little bit here. 6'2", 217 pounds, so kind of checks the size box, if you will. He's got loads of experience. SEC fans remember him from his time in Auburn, 3-year starter for them, and now a 2-year starter at Oregon. He's a bit older, like a lot of quarterbacks coming out of college lately have been. He turns 24 years old in February, but my biggest concern with Bo Nix is the ADOT. This is sort of an X's and O's football porn, if you will, but average depth of target, like when he drops back to throw a pass, how far down from the line of scrimmage are Bo Nix's intended receivers? It's 6.9, very nice yards, but compared to other guys, not so nice. I mean, Bo Nix's stats this year have been some of the best in all of college football. Completion percentage, first in FBS. Passing yards, second, only to a guy we'll talk about later on. Passing touchdowns in FBS, tied for first. Interceptions, 3, tied for 5th. So all those numbers look great. But the issue is he's a check down Charlie, and he goes to guys at the line of scrimmage who do a lot of great stuff after they catch that. In the NFL is not so realistic. I need to see a quarterback throw the ball down the field with accuracy. He's got the velocity factor to him. I don't have concerns about that. But to me, I just think there are too many concerns about Bo Nix having a lot of his passes be completed behind the line of scrimmage. I want to see a quarterback in college that can push the ball down the field and not find out on Sundays if he can do that. Because there's nothing worse than drafting Bo Nix, having him go out there week 1, and him checking it down to Bijan, who gets tackled for a loss on 3 straight plays because Bo Nix can't throw to Drake London 20 yards down the field. Before we get on to my next Ridder replacement, today's show was made possible thanks to our great sponsor, Prize Picks. Now, let me get you guys caught up to speed on how Prize Picks works. All you're going to do is pick 2 to 6 players and then pick more or less on their projected stats. So for Sunday, I selected these 4 players, and I took the more on Josh Allen and Gabriel Davis's yards Now, Prize Picks for the holiday season is doing Demons and Goblins, okay? Demons are slightly more difficult projected stats to reach, but it's a greater payout. However, Goblins, lower projected stats, but not as great as a payout. So I took the more on Allen and Gabriel Davis. I also took the more on Raheem Mostert's rushing yards against a Cowboys defense that was just butchered by Buffalo and Zach Moss. And then finally, I took the less on Tony Pollard and his rushing yards against a good Dolphins defense with Vic Fangio calling the plays. So if you like my selections, feel free to ride with me or fade them over at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. We move on to our third Ridder replacement, and I'm going to go with Michael Penix Jr., the other phenomenal Pac-12 quarterback this season. Penix is 6'3", 213 pounds, and similar to Bo Nix, a 3-year starter at another school before transferring to his current school where he started for 2 years, and he's also an older QB. He's going to turn 24 years old in May, but the big difference between Nix and Penix is Michael Penix has no problem throwing the ball down the field. Remember, Bo Nix's average depth of target was 6.9 yards. Penix, it is 11.1 yards. I mean, Penix this year lit it up. He led the FBS in passing yards with 4,218 yards. And despite throwing down the field, yes, did not have as great a completion percentage as Bo Nix, but 65.9 yards when you were throwing past the first down marker on average every single play, not too shabby. 33 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Again, the 9 interceptions is 3 times bigger than Bo Nix, but when you throw the ball down the field and you take more risks, there are going to be rewards and there are going to be consequences. But ultimately, I don't think Michael Penix is talked about enough for 3 big reasons. One, he went to Indiana. It's kind of hard to envision anyone going to Indiana being good in the NFL, and most importantly, a quarterback being good in the NFL. 2, he transferred to the Pac-12. Most people don't watch Pac-12 after dark. They don't get a lot of eyeballs on their games. And so ultimately, we just kind of have a little bit of a negative Pac-12 bias as a country of Pac-12. I didn't watch that guy. He can't all that be good. Oh, he went to Indiana before that? No way he's good. And number 3, he's a lefty. It just looks unnatural. It looks awkward. It doesn't look like it's a great throw with a ton of velocity or a ton of accuracy because he's a lefty. So all 3 of those things going against him, they don't make him look too good. But I think if we do a blind QB comparison, you might think differently. So I took Michael Penix's numbers here, and I compared him to an above-average SEC quarterback from the last 10 years or so. That might surprise you because against this blind QB resume, Penix has a better completion percentage, better yards, better passing average, more touchdowns, fewer interceptions. Now, who is this 2014 SEC QB I picked? Dak Prescott, who I think we could all agree, very good in college. And he's had a very successful NFL career. Is he a great elite top 4, top 3 quarterback in the NFL? No, but he's definitely an improvement from Desmond Ridder. So Michael Penix, just going off the numbers, I bet you didn't expect him to have way better than the numbers than Dak Prescott in college. Now, who is your favorite college QB this year? Like, I would love to see Atlanta get in a spot to get Caleb Williams or Drake May if I'm a Falcons fan, but that's probably not going to happen with 6 wins right now unless they make a Panthers blockbuster trade to jump up to number 1. So with that being said, who is your favorite college QB this season? Maybe your favorite college quarterback this year is this year's Heisman winner, Jayden Daniels. Let's talk about the former Arizona State Sun Devil and LSU Tiger. So he's 6'4", 210 pounds. And just like the previous 2 guys, a 3-year starter at his original school before playing 2 years at his final destination. He's slightly younger than Nix and Michael Penix. He turned 23 years old just a few days ago, actually. And, of course, he just hoisted the 2023 Heisman Trophy Award. So Jayden Daniels had a phenomenal season for LSU. The numbers speak for themselves. 72% completion percentage. 3,800 passing yards, 40 touchdowns. He was awesome on the ground, 1,100 rushing yards. Truly a dynamic dual threat quarterback that a lot of NFL teams are chasing afterwards right now. But my biggest beef with Jayden Daniels has nothing to do with Jayden Daniels. It's that the Falcons might have won too many games to get Jayden Daniels. I mean, we're looking at the current NFL draft order, and the Bears at number 1 via the Carolina Panthers. I could see them trading Justin Fields and selecting Caleb Williams. I could see the Patriots going Drake May. I don't think Arizona goes quarterback. I bet they go Marvin Harrison if they have the number 3 spot. I could see the Commanders maybe going quarterback after benching Sam Howell. Maybe he's not their guy long term. The Bears would have just taken a QB. The Giants have Daniel Jones, so do they take a quarterback? Maybe, maybe not. The Jets have Aaron Rodgers, so hard to say definitively. The Chargers got Herbert. The Titans like Will Levis. So if everything holds and no one trades in the top 10, maybe Atlanta could get Jayden Daniels at number 10. But something tells me that a team is going to fall in love with Jayden Daniels, and we're going to see all 3 of the top quarterbacks, Williams, May, and Daniels, all go in maybe the top 5, 6, 7, or 8. And so if Atlanta sits at 10, or if they win a game or two and go from 10 to 11 to 12, they might have won themselves out of getting Jayden Daniels. So with all that being said, smokescreen time. Jayden Daniels is our guy in the draft. Atlanta's not going to get Caleb Williams or Drake May, but they could get Jayden Daniels. So we have to do a covert secret operation right now, underground mission, to just start shit-talking Jayden Daniels, get people off the Jayden Daniels hype train so the Falcons can get him at 10, 11, 12, wherever they end up picking. So now is the time to get online and just start pointing out some flaws, bad breath guy, whatever it might be, just turn everyone off Daniels so Atlanta can swoop in and get him wherever they might end up picking in round 1. My number 1 Desmond Ridder replacement option is Justin Fields. I've seen a lot of people in the national media start talking about Fields going to Atlanta. And remember who told you first? Back in October, I said Justin Fields is going to be an Atlanta Falcon. And it's not because he's doing bad in Chicago. It's because the Bears, with the first overall pick, will just be unable to pass on the opportunity to draft Caleb Williams. And so they will look to trade Justin Fields, the former 11th overall pick, who unfortunately does not have a great winning record. But hey, maybe you're in the camp of wins are not a QB stat. He is 8-27 in 3 years for Chicago. Now, his 5th-year option decision will be coming up this offseason. And whether it's the Bears or whether it's the Falcons, whoever decides to pick up or not pick up the tab, it's going to cost someone potentially $21.9 million for that 5th-year option in 2025. And of course, as we all know, Justin Fields is a Georgia native. He went to Harrison High School in Kennesaw, so it would be a homecoming for him. I'm sure he'd love to come back to the Peach State, and I'm sure if Arthur Smith is retained as an NFL head coach, he would love to have Justin Fields as his quarterback, because you think about what Arthur Smith has always had in a quarterback, it's been some level of mobility, right? Mariota, Desmond Ridder, even a little bit of Ryan Tannehill back in Tennessee. He has always loved a guy that can move the pocket, and that is Justin Fields. This year, 1,900 passing yards through 10 games, but he's always been a dynamic rusher, although the Bears coaching staff and specifically their play calling has done Fields dirty. I'm telling you guys, the numbers do not do Justin Fields service. They do not do him justice. He has been way better than what the numbers indicate. Sure, there have been marginal improvements through 3 years so far, and usually year 2 or year 3 is the year you expect to see a big jump, kind of like what we saw out of Lamar Jackson and what we saw out of Joe Burrow, but that unfortunately has not really happened for Fields just yet. However, the eye test tells me Justin Fields is a promising quarterback. If you just go box score hunting, sure, you can push your narrative of Justin Fields is not a good quarterback. But if you actually sit down and watch the Bears start to finish, you will see a lot of awful decision-making. You will see a lot of horrible defensive play in the fourth quarter that has led to a lot of blown leads for the Bears, which unfortunately have given Fields more losses on his record when he has put them in position to win. And any average defense would have wrapped that game up and had a W, but instead the Bears collapsed. They choked it away, just like they did this past Sunday in Cleveland with a 10-point fourth quarter lead. I'm a Fields believer, whether it's in Chicago or somewhere else. I think Justin Fields is going to be a successful NFL quarterback. And if Chicago decides to go get Caleb Williams or even Drake May with the first overall pick, We know Fields is done in Chicago, and Atlanta should be the number one team calling Lake Forest, Illinois to get Justin Fields down to Flowery Branch. So here is my trade idea. If I'm Terry Fontenot and Justin Fields is available, I'm offering a 2024 and a 2025 second-round pick. The Bears are probably looking for a first-round pick for Fields, but if Atlanta ends up picking between 9 through 12 or so, they're not going to give up that first-round pick for Justin Fields. If the Falcons had the 28th or 29th overall pick, sure, that's much more realistic. But remember, not all first-round picks are created equal, and so Atlanta's best offer is this year's second-round pick and next year's second-round pick, which if I'm the Bears and I just drafted my franchise QB and Caleb Williams, you hope, that's not a pretty bad offer for Justin Fields. So would you do this trade? Accept or decline? We talked about trading for Fields several times on the show before, and if you're worrisome, if your biggest issue with this is you don't want to give up 2 second-round picks, go look at some previous Falcons second-round picks. Tell me how many of them are even still on the team after their rookie contract is up. I am very content with giving up 2 second-rounders for a guy I think can be your franchise quarterback who can run Arthur Smith's offense well. Hopefully Arthur Smith can figure out his offense, though, and you pair him with Bijan, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London, and then some additional support coming in. That can be an electric offense at the Benz.